Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to another Panel B podcast. I'm your host, Alex Jankowski, along with co-hosts Julian Edlow and Steve Buchanan.
Hi.
No titles here. We don't believe in titles.
We're all
or
equal.
facts.
Or facts. The T-shirts are basically writing themselves. Let's hit on, a couple things to hit on today. We got mostly NFL. So I guess we'll start with NFL. Talk a little Dak Prescott. Could be the the 30 million Dak Prescott. Does not want to be. Wants to be the 40 million Dak Prescott. Is he worth that much? Is any quarterback worth that much?
Hell no. I was waiting for you to say something.
No.
40 million for Prescott?
Yeah, that's insane.
Like, the one thing that I will give him, if you go over wins over the last, 3 seasons or so, the leaders...
We all love that stat.
The leaders are Brady, Prescott, Breeze, guys that are making, 40-plus million overall in their current deals. So maybe the Cowboys giving Prescott $2 million a year, maybe they owe him something, a little bit of payback for helping them win the last few seasons on, a really cheap deal.
It's not like they
that's
actually
just
won
a little,
anything, though.
Right. Not that they actually even did anything all that important. So maybe you give him some kind of bonus that reflects, hey, thanks for sticking this out for a couple years.
Yeah.
For a couple $1 million. But you'd want to sign him to market value. There's no real excuse.
I don't want a couple million of these guys. I don't want a couple $1 million.
Yes,
One's enough.
It's just, he definitely deserves a raise. We'll give him that.
Sure.
But, there's a difference between a raise and something that's just not, he hasn't earned it really yet. We haven't seen him get it done in the playoffs. We haven't really seen him get it done consistently in the regular season. I mean, this is a team that rides and dies on the back of Ezekiel Elliott, not Dak Prescott.
But, okay, well then, because he's obviously in a similar situation right now, wanting more money, quarterback far more valuable than running back. So if you are going to overpay one of the two, would you do it with Dak?
I don't think he's the guy. I just don't see it. When we think of the top quarterbacks in the league, is Dak even in the top 10? Maybe 10?
No.
Amari Cooper on the team now?
Yeah, but I need to see a full season of Amari Cooper first. You know what I mean? I feel like
I
Amari...
actually agree there.
Huh?
I actually agree there.
I mean, I feel like Cooper was on his best behavior with the Cowboys. Now he's comfortable with the team. What do we get out of what do we get a full season of Amari Cooper now? Especially if Zeke is out. Is he going to be that number one guy that they always thought he was going to be with the Raiders? That is yet to be seen. I just feel like there's too many moving parts right now that you want to commit all this money to Dak with. Really, we don't know what's going to happen with Elliott. I want to see more of Cooper in that offense first. Now is not the time to be asking for the contract, but maybe he's smart and he's kind of playing the hand right now because of all the uncertainty.
Sure.
There's so much that we have to see here. I mean, the Cowboys were a team that I liked on DK Sportsbook. I know we've discussed kind of the make the playoffs odds, but the Cowboys are plus 160 to win that division, and Washington and New York certainly are not winning that division. So
No.
It is not going to be one of those teams. So that leaves you with the Eagles at minus 118. And my problem with the Eagles that I've voiced all off season is Nick Foles gone. I don't trust Carson Wentz to go. I trust Carson Wentz. I think he's a good quarterback, a good decision maker. I don't trust him to go 16 games healthy because that's something that we just haven't seen yet. And the fall off this year is going to be much steeper without Foles. So the Cowboys are a team that I've just kind of had off to the side that I really like for that division.
Yep.
But their two studs aren't committed right now, and that's something that we need to know. So that's something I've kind of had my eye on. If these two guys finally get locked up, particularly the Zeke contract, that the Cowboys have some really nice odds right now because they were getting close to even. Philly was always still favored, but they were kind of getting neck and neck there, and then these contract situations come out, and the odds on Dallas have really fallen.
Yeah, so right now, just to make the playoffs, yes, plus 110, no, minus 134. Yeah. So, Bukes, are you even thinking about making the playoffs, or if you think they're going to make the playoffs, just go take the division, get the better odds?
I mean, making the playoffs seems to make a lot more sense. I mean, even without Wentz, the Eagles are just so talented at receiver. Like, they made some serious upgrades there. Like, I've said it 1,000 times. Like, I don't think the move for Deshaun Jackson has been talked about enough, because that was one of the things that the Eagles were really lacking last season. They didn't have that deep threat guy. I mean, and who better to have than Deshaun Jackson, who doesn't even have to be one of the top receivers on this team. Like, he can play his role, and that's exactly what they got him for. Like, they don't need him for, 6-7 receptions a game. They need him for 2-3 long shots, and that's exactly the role that he plays his best in. I think that's why he didn't really succeed when he was with Tampa, because they were trying to feed him more than he really needs to be fed. So I think he plays so well in this offense, and then if everybody's healthy, like, this is a team to beat. We obviously, Carson Wentz, we can't rely on him to be healthy, but when he is,
if everybody's healthy,
he's an MVP caliber quarterback. So I just think there's a lot to like with the Eagles. If they can kind of make sense of their running back situation, like, that would help too as well. But they have way more pros than cons, the Eagles.
I'm just worried with Philly, and I get why they're favored based on the talent, but I can't. I need to see Wentz go another 16-game season and be an MVP candidate before I can trust him. And right now, you're talking about that talent at receiver. I don't care about Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Nelson Aguilar, the rookie that they got in the second round, Whiteside. I don't care about any of those guys, because the backup is Nate Sudfeld, who
is
broke
hurt.
something in his wrist or arm. And after that, it's some dude named Clayton Thorson, who I would not know if I walked past him on the street. Who
Northwestern,
that dude
stand
is.
up.
So there's just not many people to get the ball to those talented receivers if Wentz is not right.
Well, the other thing is, too, is that they're obviously going to look at Kessler in week 2 here of the preseason. Moves can be made if it's not going to be
Moves
Kessler.
can be made,
like, so I'm not too worried about that, because they're not going to go into the season without a solidified number 2. Like, it would be Sudfeld if he's healthy. I think he's going to miss about 6 weeks, so he's right around the time the NFL is going to start, a couple weeks in. But I mean, Sudfeld is a fine quarterback, QB2, not ideal.
Is he, though?
I mean,
he's never had to be.
Some of the other options out there, like, who else is there?
Yeah, no, I mean,
there isn't an option that would make me trust the Eagles.
No, if you could bank and you knew that Wentz is playing 10 games and you have to get 6 out of Sudfeld, I think you probably then lean the Cowboys.
For sure.
I think that's fair.
Okay, well, do you lean the Cowboys without Zeke Elliott?
Yeah.
If that's the case.
Because the reports out of camp are Tony Pollard is just so impressive, and there's absolutely no hidden agenda behind why they would be pumping up Tony Pollard.
None of this even matters, Janko. It's if the Eagles and Cowboys played tonight, who would win the division? That's how futures work.
Devotees will remember that discussion. Let's talk about another quarterback, Andrew Luck, who may or may not have the Philadelphia 76ers training staff.
Or the Mets.
Taking a look at, or the Mets. Well, no, because the Mets would have him out there.
Right.
The Mets would be pushing him out there. Like, you're fine.
True.
Just go practice.
That's very true.
A quad injury that turns into a high ankle sprain, which, I don't know, probably is going to turn into a shoulder injury maybe again. Like, what is going on with this guy? And just, how could you even begin to explain this for a guy who was very durable, in college leading into this? Like, there's no real history.
I mean, from a personal standpoint, I'm glad I haven't taken any Andrew Luck season props yet, because it doesn't look too great anymore. But this is just wild, like how this has evolved so quickly. We thought Andrew Luck was going to be ready to go. And then all of a sudden it changed dramatically, and now so they don't want to play him in the preseason, which is fine. Like, I'm definitely okay with that, but like, you're really starting to get worried here now, because it seems like every day now it's getting worse and worse. And for a team that had such high expectations, when they're talking about getting him out there at less than 100%, like, that's concerning to me. I mean, do you really want an 80% Andrew Luck out there? Yeah, your chances of winning are better than, any of the other backups you put out there. But, I just feel like at this point, he's like a piece of glass, like one bad hit and it's over for him. Like, thankfully they have a very strong offensive line, which I think must come into the thought process a little bit here. But
no, I don't think they put him out there if he's not 100%.
They haven't in the past, so
yeah.
I agree with you there. I don't think they will.
They seem to give him a good amount of leeway in terms of however he feels, they'll they'll more or less go with that. And if he's not confident, he's not going to be out there. And certainly, like, it is also still the preseason, right? Like, there's, for as strange as this story has been, and like, to some degree, it's probably just like it might have always been a high ankle sprain, excuse me, and they just didn't want to talk about it in that light. Like, who really knows? But like, I'm with you though in terms of season long or player props right now. Like, kind of everything's off the board with me there. I mean, he was probably not somebody I was targeting in season long drafts, anyways, but.
I was pretty high on Luck this year.
You and I were talking about the props on him, how it felt his passing yards were too low, like coming before all this started to come out. And now you look at that and it's like, well, who even knows how many games he's going to get in to start the year?
Yeah, I'm not going either way on him right now. I'm not going to start smashing unders on him either because it's determined that he's going to miss the preseason. This is something that I want to see where we stand on Labor Day weekend, that weekend before kickoff weekend, the weekend after all the preseason games wrap up on that Thursday night, the week 4 preseason games, camps are all over, and really see where he is, because ruling somebody out for the entire preseason of Luck's caliber, like a Julio Jones who just said, no, I'm not going to play all preseason, I don't really care about that. It doesn't really tell me necessarily that something is really wrong. It could just be I'm not going to risk this or feel the need to get out there. But it definitely puts all of Luck's player props on hold for me, and I want to see where he is that first week in September before determining anything. And if you look at the AFC South on DK Sportsbook, the Colts were you needed to lay a little bit of juice there around like the minus 120 area, I think, to win that division, and now they're even odds, so that's shifted a little bit. But if something comes out negative to Luck, missing any regular season time, Houston plus 260, Jacksonville plus 425, Tennessee plus 650, you can get some pretty good plus money on any of those other teams. Obviously, the Texans probably make the most sense there, but just something to look at if anything comes out of for Luck's timeline missing any real time.
Preseason week 1 is come and gone. Week 2 just around the corner here. What stood out to you guys most? Obviously, it's that we're all scrambling to draft Daniel Jones in our dynasty leagues, I'm sure.
I just think that it's so critical to stay in tune with the news that comes out and following a lot of the beat writers for players that you're targeting. And, I talked about this in a different segment here, but, there was late reports that Damian Harris wasn't going to get any work in preseason 1, and yet you look at his ownership across the board, it was in the high 20s, low 30s, and he put up 0. He didn't end up taking a carry or anything. So I think you really got to, especially if you're playing the preseason, you just really got to try to stay up with the news, because that could give you the edge. Because at the end of the day, aside from a very small group of people, the majority of us aren't scouring Twitter on a normal basis keeping up with the preseason news, because it comes and goes so quickly. But if you want to end up getting that edge, I think that's so important to keep up with that. And obviously the DK Live app, if anything significant comes up, we'll have that news on there as well. But that's going to give you the biggest edge in these preseasons, because I think I can speak for all of us in here. We're not exactly in tune with all the 3rd and 4th string guys that are going to be taking all these snaps. So
speak for yourself, man.
The
Bills. So the Bills brought in a rugby player through some exchange program.
Patriot-esque.
And so he's from England, never played organized football in his career. He retired from rugby so that he could try and do it. They gave him one carry. 65-yard house call.
Oh,
and was holding the ball literally like a rugby ball for half of that. He eventually got it right. But the burst that he showed, you're talking late sleeper there.
All right, lock him in.
He's going to be the week 4 preseason star. I'm calling that now. Like, just give him everything he can take.
I like that.
I didn't realize the backstory on that. I knew about the play. I didn't realize the backstory. That's actually pretty incredible.
It is incredible.
I mean, when it comes to preseason, I mostly actually echo what Steve said, believe it or not.
Mark the tape.
Yeah. First time for everything.
Shut up.
For me, like, I missed out on cashing in cash lineups on the first 2 preseason slates, the Hall of Fame game, because I switched out Brian Hill for somebody else who I would have cashed the first preseason week 1 slate. switched out Preston Williams, a guy that's really hyped up, a 5-star recruit from Tennessee on the Miami Dolphins. Switched him out for a wide receiver, Scott, on the Chargers, just because Miami had more depth at receiver, and LA was supposed to be
called
thinner,
overthinking it.
Thinner at the position.
Lots
yes.
of tinkering.
So what I'm trying to say here is I tinkered my way probably out of better lineups on the first 2 preseason slates, and then got it right. I didn't do that on the next ones, the Friday and Saturday slates, these last couple of ones. And it worked out. So don't over-tinker unless the news
warrants
it, which did happen on that Saturday slate when I think I was playing 2 49ers running backs, and then Jalen Richard got ruled out for Oakland.
Yep.
So then DeAndre Washington became a good play. He actually had 65 yards and a touchdown. So then I only had to play one of the San Francisco running backs and get an Oakland running back in there and just get some more diversity. And that was actually some news that wound up really helping me score more points. But, yeah, don't find out who the guys are. Put your lineup together. Don't tinker with it after that unless the news dictates that there's a better play on the board.
But what about, so not even from DFS, though, just general takeaways, and maybe that's where we just start with the quarterbacks because, Daniel Jones was 5 for 5, very timed throws, nothing too spectacular. But Kyler Murray also only got 1 series, but I don't know, looked pretty good, and they didn't look like they were running anything too vanilla. I mean, it was probably vanilla for them, but it was still at least shotgun spread.
Mm-hmm.
Like, any takeaways there or from any of the other maybe higher draft picks who were out there?
Nothing really stood out, I think.
It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Nobody did anything spectacular enough to make note. I think Daniel Jones is probably the headline just because of all the jokes, because of where he landed. To go perfect on a first drive and lead a touchdown, I would say that was the headline, and everybody's obviously heard about that. So as it moves on, week 2, week 3, you guys know I'm high on Kyler Murray. I want to see what he can do with maybe a half of a game in preseason week 3. That's something that I'm looking forward to watching. But so far, nothing crazy has stuck out.
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine too, week 1, starters are, very rarely used, if much at all. So once we start getting a little bit deeper in, then we'll start kind of getting some information here. But like for me, I'm so curious of what the Steelers are gonna do with Jalen Samuels, because you keep hearing about how they want to maybe run a two backs at the same time, but have Samuels be more of a receiver. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, because that whole offense is changing. Mm-hmm. They have so many targets they have to make up for. So I think how they utilize Connor and Samuels in the offense is really going to be telling. Hopefully, we'll start getting some information on that.
How they utilize anyone, really. I mean, James Washington had a nice catch. Good to see his name pop up again. Mm-hmm. But you talk about like Dante Moncrief's a guy that's been, there's some buzz around just because it's he's kind of the de facto second wide receiver in this offense that is still going to throw the ball a lot. And then Vance McDonald, who's like the perpetual tight end sleeper guy.
One of those names.
Might have 1 or 2 games and another Jesse James-esque player. Everyone's like, well, Jesse James is gone now. Well, Jesse James wasn't a name either,
right.
And then all of a sudden he became one. So, interesting to see kind of where that offense goes, or if they just finally take a step back. I mean,
which is very possible.
That's an option.
You would think it's
very possible.
Let's talk NBA though. Schedule release there. We can't run through all the narratives, all the returns for several players. There's really too many to count, but revenge narratives in general, like who are you targeting the most when they play their former team?
Go ahead, Jules. How do you not say Davis?
That's a good question.
Davis against the Pelicans, November 27th. Mark it on the calendar.
But why?
Why not?
Is he Well, yeah. I'm sure Anthony Davis is going to have a great game against a bad front court, but why is that the one?
Because for somebody who wore a shirt that said "That's all, folks," you don't think he wants to stick it to his old team more than ever?
Maybe. So do these other guys.
Maybe.
Sure.
How is it only a maybe? That game didn't stick out to you right away?
Not really.
All right, then give me a better one.
Kyrie.
Oh, let's give him a second to look it over.
I'm leaning Westbrook, because he's the most emotional of any of those players. And even though he requested a trade,
It was only after.
He takes things personally. We saw those OKC Golden State games after Durant asked out, and they got into it in those games, and Westbrook took it very personally. So as the guy that takes things the most personally on out of this group, I think that Westbrook back at OKC is my favorite spot for now. I reserve the right to change my mind.
What did you think about the NBA not eliminating, but lessening back-to-backs and how that might impact things?
Yeah, that's something players have wanted for so long, and just by LeBron kind of being at the forefront of it, it made it happen. And yet we still see all of these maintenance days, load management, rest, whatever you want to call it. And it's probably still going to keep happening. And I don't have the best way to eliminate it. It's like, if these guys don't want to play, if they want to take a day, how are you supposed to make them play, even if they're healthy?
Yeah, and I mean, kudos to the league for trying to take the steps to do it. The unfortunate thing is you just watched Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors, implement it more than anyone, and then he's fresh for the playoffs.
How do you
they
not
won
do it after what
title.
Kawhi just pulled off?
Right.
So, yeah, no, that's the case, and maybe there's more to it than that, but even, there's other articles too, reports that they're potentially looking to release the lineups earlier too, the starting lineups.
People would really like that.
But of course, like, what you have to understand is, like, you're still giving a coach, the opportunity to make. You would have to give the coach the opportunity to make changes after that too. So, we'll see.
Right. How can you tell a coach not to be like, right before a game, well, we saw something, we switched this. Yep. It's like, well, no, you can't do that. Yes, I can. I'm the head coach of an NBA team, and I want to play this guy instead.
But for the most part, I mean, how often would that really occur, though, do you think? Because it's
happening more and more.
But going into the game, like, there obviously is some sort of game plan already. Like, how drastic would a change be that's a coach or suddenly like, okay, I need to change this now because X player is in the lineup now?
I don't know. Maybe the game plan all along has been to put someone in the starting lineup and then switch it 5 minutes before tip.
Yep. I mean, it will never go away completely.
Right.
But it's definitely a step in the right direction because, we've had some teams that are so notorious for releasing at literally the last second. I mean, all of us who work on the DK Live shift can attest to that and how angry we get when things like that happen because people think it's our fault. We're the ones who are making those changes.
Yes.
At Julian Edlow, how could you make that change? It was all your fault.
Many things.
You put a leak in the Smoothie King Center.
I was just going to say, my claim to fame is being accused of putting a leak in the Smoothie King Center.
Oh, my.
I actually didn't do it, though.
That's just the thing somebody who did it would say.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
And who bets that? Andrew.
Real quickly on the narrative return, because I feel like both of you guys were trying to push me to say Kyrie. The only thing I'll say about Kyrie is I think it is hilarious that they made his return to Boston on Thanksgiving Eve after, if you'll remember, last season, after Kyrie's media session. The Celtics always play at home the night before Thanksgiving, so after Kyrie's media session on another frustrating loss the night before Thanksgiving, all of the media members wrapped up by saying, "Happy Thanksgiving, Kyrie," and Kyrie said, "F Thanksgiving," and walked away. And that was made a big storyline for a while. So the NBA says, why don't we bring Kyrie Irving back to Boston on Thanksgiving Eve so that he can celebrate with all of his friends that he has here in town?
Better see some good signs out there.
There will be.
Thanksgiving is very overrated, by the way.
All right, real quick here as we wrap up. MLB plays for tonight. We'll do holiday rankings in the next show.
Fine. I don't know if this is like a common theme on Wednesday night, but like pitching has just been atrocious. Like for like the past 3 Wednesdays in a row, like it's Clayton Kershaw versus the Marlins, and then everybody else. Like it's not even close. It's another really tough slate that if you are a fan of Tears would be a great option for tonight. But yeah, just really really rough. It's a 6-game slate, and.
Well, hold on. So the Tigers had this guy. He made his first start for the team. He didn't look that bad. His name's like Edgar Jackson or something. I don't know. I'm just going I just saw what he did. Maybe it's a new team. His maybe some just wasn't a good fit in his last team, and
as a backer of someone who had over 5.5 runs for the Royals in that game, I think that's the hardest I've ever tilted in my life. Seeing this absolute trash bag go out there and look like a Cy Young
We can go
can.
back to the Edwin Jackson well, I think.
Oh, come on.
I'm going to trust it.
Come on.
What? Targeting
You're
against
gonna fall
Edwin
for
Jackson?
that? Huh?
Targeting against him.
Oh, against him.
Yeah, we can go right
okay.
back to the well against him.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's fine.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not. I'm not a believer that all of a sudden he figured it out.
So yeah, Seattle being minus 148 on the money line.
Yes.
That looks good. If you want to make it the first 5,
Yes.
that looks fine. The spot that I'm looking at is Cardinals and Royals under. I think it just went from 10 to 9.5. We'll see if that changes at all, but you can get nice odds on it at under 9.5. St. Louis has been a really good under team lately, going under in 11 of their last 13. Hudson against Keller, not a bad pitching matchup. St. Louis had one of the best bullpens in baseball recently. It's in a pitcher's park in Kansas City. Neither of these offenses are doing anything special. I think that's a good under spot. I think it was 2-0 last night.
Yeah, it was.
Unless there was a late run there. Really low-scoring game. So St. Louis Cardinals unders. They're a thing right now.
And if you're not stacking against Steven Matz on the road, I don't know why you played DFS.
And last thing, hey, but don't look now. Andrew Cashner, first save for the Red Sox last night. Bullshit was over. No.
Stupid.
At one point in time, the most profitable pitcher in baseball when he was traded to the Red Sox. That no longer is the...
That, folks, is called a calling card in that, we just have to bring that up on every episode. It helps, bind, this series together every episode.
And now he bets on the
about
Marlins for whatever godforsaken reason.
I won't be betting on the Marlins against Kershaw.
Oh, what a fraud you are.
The whole point is that I pick my spots with the Marlins. I know the spots.
All right, odds and lines, they're subject to change. Please see website for actual odds. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and would like help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. That is going to do it for the Panel B podcast. Julian Edlow, Steve Buchanan, I'm Alex Jankowski. We'll see you next time.